prison's transformed. Guards, they took your cigarettes away from you so you don't have these control mechanisms over your inmates. And they tell you, well, it's to save money on health care. Yet now you're giving inmates record doses of OxyContin, which is making them junkies, and costing you a fortune. All being billed back to Medicare and other medical, people who supply money. We're going to change that. One, under the Gifts of God Act, under the GAGA, cigarettes are going back into prison. The revenue is going to go back to where it was. Think of all the money you're going to get back all of a sudden, and all the money you're not going to have to cough up on OxyContin anymore. And think about how mellow your inmates are going to be. But we're going to do something better for you. Potheads will be granted amnesty. Now, that's on the charge of being a pothead. That isn't if they were involved in a burglary or anything else. And let's face it, the people arresting them, they want to be paid. They want their fines. They want their money. So what's going to happen is we're going to let them out, but they still have to pay the fines, and they have to wear an ankle bracelet until it's all paid off, which of course is another revenue generator for you, but the potheads are happy because they're finally out of prison. And you've opened up the doors, you've created a revolving door without sacrificing your money at a law enforcement level. You went out and busted them, you count on being paid, you'll be paid. You just won't have to keep them inside anymore. You've got to open up the room. See, we need the room for pedophiles, pimps, political pigs, and other enemies of the people. And that includes illegal immigrants. Have no doubt. You let them out, we still have an industry to maintain. And that's how we're going to maintain it. Pedophiles, you're getting life, you're getting your cocks lopped off, period. Same with you pimps, because as far as I'm concerned, you're nothing but a pedophile too. Political pigs, death is too good for you. You've been screwing the people for years. It's time to work your asses to the bone. Enemies of the people, it depends on the crime and the judge, I suppose. Keeping in mind this is just one piece of one pie, and there's many pies to come. You have $1 billion to federal prisons, another $1 billion to state prisons. On a state level, that comes out to an average of $20 million a state every year forevermore, minimum. So you're going to use the money to grow and manufacture pot, get it all packaged up. What better, safer place to grow pot than in the prison? Who's going to break into prison to steal it? In the meantime, just the smell of it's going to mellow a whole lot of inmates out, and you've got the worst of the worst competing to be part of that program. They're kissing butt. They've already got their cigarettes back, and they got pedophiles, pimps, and political pigs to compete with, but they're kissing butt to get on that Grow Pot program. And what better way to get your worst of your worst inmates in line? So you got them on the chain gang, because we don't want to use chemicals. We don't want to use chemicals to grow the pot. This stuff has to be hand-babied. You got to go through there. If there's a moth or something on you, get there. You get rid of that. You take care of it. No chems allowed. That's the whole point. Organic growing. So now you guys in prison, you have something to do, and it gets better. It gets much better. There's plenty of cooks in prison right now. I have no doubt. So what's going to happen is you're not just going to grow pot. There's even more revenues. And that's from growing what gifts of God you can, depending on your region. If you're in the southwest United States, northern Mexico, peyote might be something that you could grow. On the list would also include things like digitalis, belladonna, heart meds. The cooks in prison that are doing a lifetime term for whatever reason, and even those that aren't cooks but can be easily trained, you take those prisons, you start growing the meds. Most meds are based on plants. So what we do is we grow the meds in prison, thereby massively reducing the cost of medication. Massively reducing the risk, too, because who are you going to blame? You're going to blame God. God's the one that made the plants, right? So you massively reduce the cost of drugs. You use as organic a drug as possible. You got painkillers coming in there, everything from marijuana to opium. Oh, yeah, you heard me. Growing poppies. Once again, digitalis, belladonna, and Lord knows how many other pills are out there that are made organically. They're made out of plants. This isn't about finding a molecule and, oh, it didn't work for this, so we're going to give it to you for that. Like AZT didn't work for cancer. It was killing the bone marrow. So what do you give it to? You give it to AIDS patients. The AIDS patients, the number one thing that they needed was bone marrow. And so what did you just do? You killed their bone marrow with the AZT. That kind of stuff is a crock. The FDA, you're totally out of line. What's going to happen is that the MAGOG, the main administration for the Gifts of God Act, is going to take a front position over you, FDA. We're going to clean up the drug business. $330 billion a year wasted on drugs. Now, if half of that were saved, let's go for only 300 million, call it 300 to make it easy, and then say half of it, call it 150 billion. If we can save 150 billion a year over 8 years, there you go. That's 1.2 trillion. Isn't that the cost of the healthcare package that was just crammed down our throats at the last moment? So prisons, you're transformed. You're the ones that are going to become the new drug manufacturers. Your people are going to be mellower than ever. And there's one more point that I keep starting to harp on. What we're going to do is we're going to isolate those who are Jamaican, those who are of Afro descent. And in the Jamaicans' case, in the Rastas' case, they're the Lions of Judea, man, and they can't wait to get back to Ethiopia. So they're going to lead the front lines to Ethiopia. But in the case of the Muslim brother, different Muslims come from different tribes. And I know they want to know. And they love to go back to those tribes. Africa is a mess. So what we're going to do is isolate the Jamaicans, the Rastas, the Afro-Americans, find out what tribes they're from, and start getting them trained whenever possible so we can go in as a joint international force with nations like China, Russia, the EU, and clean up Africa.